everybody.
Good morning. How are you, Cari?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Nikki is in LA. Beautiful, sunny, maybe LA. I know it's actually not too bad here right now either in Minnesota. But I do have an update that I can just jump right into from her.
Perfect.
Market update. She said that we saw some pretty significant improvements to the market on Friday due to the job reports and the favorable news that way. Rates are dipping into the mid to high sixes and it's looking good going into the holiday weeks coming up. So always
Nice.
headed the right direction and trending that way. So it's good news.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And on the streets, she said that she gets the question all the time regarding closing timelines and how soon we can close on a mortgage. She said, surprisingly, a lot of this really depends on the inspection and appraisal, which are both timelines that are out of the lender's
Mhm.
control. What is in the lender's control that affects the timelines to the close date has to do with disclosures and waiting periods for certain disclosures during the process. From the day of initial disclosure signing to signing at a closing table, there is a minimum of 7 business days wait time. She
Mm.
said Saturday is a business day. Sunday and national holidays, however, are not business days. So keep that in mind as you're around this time of year in the new year. Sundays and holidays are not counted. Secondly, there's also an appraisal review timeline that we have to consider as well. Any borrowers having any borrower has 3 days to review the appraisal once it comes in. The borrower does not or does have the right to waive the appraisal timeline period in order to close sooner if they would like. So to say that again, the borrower can waive the timeline on the appraisal review. The waiver is done at the initial disclosure timeline. However, it can be signed at any time throughout the loan process as well. Lastly, and everybody's favorite, is the closing disclosure waiting period. There is a 3-day waiting period from initial closing disclosure to the closing table. 99.9% of the time, this time frame cannot be waived. The only circumstance where this can be waived is a qualifying financial hardship. With that said, there's only one single instance where Nikki has ever seen it happened, and it's wasn't pretty. So, as far as the purpose of just everyday business, let's just say there is no waiver to this timeline. It is what it is. So keep it in mind. Also keep in mind, even if they're sending out a closing disclosure, and start the time clock for the waiting period. If there's any change to the loan that affects the loan amount, or the interest rate, which in turn affects the APR by more than 0.125% of an increase on the APR, the timeline starts over. Make sure you are contacting your lender while writing the purchase agreements if you're looking for a fast close. A lot of lenders can do different things based upon the timeline you're looking for, but it's very important that you partner with them so they can ask the qualifying questions and that you both really understand how long we think it will take as we work through the details of the loan and mortgage. Right now, given the market conditions, Nikki has been seeing closings that can happen within 12 to 15 days. She always will recommend the 30 to 45 days, however, and if it can be done sooner and all parties are on board, that's just a bonus and fantastic. During busier times, keep in mind, as an example, during 2020 and 2021, Nikki said they were recommending 60 days closing just to get through the process and the human touches that need to happen on all loans, and it can just take time. So I think the thing that I get out of all of that as I was reading and preparing for this call is, once again, and I know I've touched on it many times, you need to be in contact with your buyer's lender. And as the listing agent, you should be calling the lender on the pre-approval letter and really starting to build a relationship and an understanding. You're the quarterback. Whether you're the listing agent or the buyer's agent for your client, you need to know where everyone's at on the field of play and what they're doing, and help the process along. I know I was told at one point in time that on average there's 43 people that touch a real estate transaction. So if you think about that from the initial contact through the closing table, that's a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. So the bigger ones that we can look at here, there's plenty of them, but it comes down to as well funding. If the buyer is getting a mortgage, what does that look like, and really understanding the process? While I'm a big advocate for staying in your own lane and doing what you do well and showing up at a really high level, there is a blanket understanding that you should have about the whole process, and knowing what questions to ask and knowing how to keep the process moving along is key. Absolutely.
I love that. I think it's just a reminder that, I think all too often, especially probably in the last few years, when things were moving so quickly, it was very easy for real estate agents to just do a couple things, stay completely in their lane, be kind of unaware of what was actually going on because things were just moving quickly and happening. And when you actually boil it down to what really has to happen, and when we start to get into more of a shifting market, there's more caveats. People are a little bit more nervous. More things come up. People become more finicky about inspections. Title companies are becoming, like, I think even a little bit more strict on things, because whenever a market shifts, it affects the businesses of inspectors. It affects the businesses of title companies, of mortgage companies, because we're not doing as many transactions. If we look at 2024 and we remember that there was less transaction, there was never a time since 1995 that there were less transactions than in 2024. Well, what does that mean for everybody in the transaction? That means everybody's business was down because there wasn't as many pieces of business to be supporting and helping on. If you were an inspector, if you were a lender, if you were a title company, if you were a loan processor, if you were, any of these things, an appraiser. And so what we're finding is people are saying, gosh, these transactions seem like they're more cumbersome. Things are coming up. They're more challenging. That's super, super common in a shifting market because people have more time. They also feel a little bit more nervous, and they're trying to mitigate any sort of risk because they probably don't have the same income and funds coming to their bottom line. So it's human nature that things will change. And I think if we remember that there's so many humans that touch these transactions, it's very, very, very important for us to be more educated. And Angie, you and I talked about this earlier in the year, and I think it's going to continue in 2025, despite the fact that we all believe the market's going to improve, is we have to be skill-based. We have to learn more than we know now. We do not have to be the expert in mortgage or title or appraising or inspecting. However, we better understand what that role is. We do need to understand some of the basics so that we can explain the process better. And then on top of being skill-based, I think relationship-based. Do you have a deep relationship with your title partner, with your lenders, with your inspectors? And how can you actually partner with them so that it can be a more successful transaction and a more smooth transaction for your clients? And I think you should be sitting down with all of them. Here, this time of year is a great year to do that, to talk about how can I know enough, or what can I say to set the right expectations? What can I do to make your job more smooth, or at least for the buyer or seller to be more educated so it's easier on you? What do you need to know from me, and how can you help me as well? And I think I remember back in the day when I was selling real estate back in the early 2000s, we had listings that were sitting on the market for 6 months very easily. And there was just a lot of different things we had to learn and do, and expectations we had to set. And I would go and have actual conversations with my title people about things. And I just remember spending a lot more time with my, vendor partners, if you will, because in the slower markets, it just requires a different level of education, a different level of collaboration. And I think, working alongside of those professionals. And I think the realtors who don't see that and are expecting that they can just be kind of tunnel vision and only know what they know will probably feel the effects of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your career spans a lot longer than mine. However, we can both agree that it's really about learning, unlearning, and then relearning and always staying engaged. I think that a lot of new agents, where I saw them fall off is getting around real estate conversations and getting in different rooms and getting in all these trainings and all these networkings and coming to this call. I mean, the more you surround yourself with real estate conversations, especially people that know what they're doing and are educational based and solution for facing and wanting to really up their game, it can change everything for you. It's another perfect example of the 5 conversations and the 5 people you surround yourself with can really dictate the trajectory of your business and of your profession. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when we look at the people that show up to trainings or calls. I look at the Wednesday call, that's a little bit of a higher level. These are some of the top agents in our group of 2000, and people who don't do that much business will say, well, I just can't find the time to show up to trainings. The busiest people are the ones that show up to the trainings and the education because they understand and they value and they know that giving that hour of their time is, if they go and execute and they grow into the conversations around them, is going to increase their business. And so if you aren't busy, you should be in conversations, in trainings, in masterminds, in meetings, just surrounding yourself and hearing these things over and over and over again. And if you are really busy, you should not stop, because that's probably how you got there.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you bring that up. And my reminder always with that is set intention. So I got asked this because I'm running a lot of in-person networking events now. And there's like, what do you do to prepare? And you go in with an intention. You don't just go to go. And I think with every training and every video you watch or every, podcast you listen to or book you read, what is your intention? And then it's what you do with the information. Knowledge, I grew up saying knowledge is power. Well, it isn't. It only really becomes powerful when you get into action or you do something with all this knowledge. So I had a coach once that said for every hour of content or a coach or training or whatever it is that you're investing your time in, you should be getting 2 to 4 hours output, meaning you take something with the intention, you take away and you put that into action or implementation or get it into your business. Because if you're just going to different things just to go and spend time and spin your wheels, that will do nothing for your business. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, even when I look at some of the training or coaching or masterminds, and now I'm, creating this masterclass, it really is only going to be beneficial if you're committing to doing something with it. So at the end of every chapter, there's going to be homework. And if you don't do the homework, you shouldn't move to the next level. Because if you're not doing something with what you just learned, if you're not making a change or an adjustment, even if it's small, it doesn't have to be something that is huge, time consuming, super expensive. It just has to be a change. Remember, 1% change every day in your life or your business over 365 days is a big, big change, right? It's a whole 360-degree turn in your life or business. And so I think that, you and I are so much on the same page with that. That's what we hope for this call. I mean, we literally did this call. Let's keep it to 20, 25, maximum 30 minutes. What's going on in the mortgage world? How can you go call all of your clients, your prospects? How can you put something out on social media? How can you create a video? How can you create a blog? What can you learn from the information that's being shared so that you can go share it with other people? How can you create a different best practice in your business from this? I think there were probably 3 to 4 takeaways from what Angie read from Nikki today that you could actually go talk to clients about, or that you could go do from this call today that would enhance your business. And so if you show up to something, leave with an intention, put it in your calendar, go do it, and then come back for more. And if you do that, you will have to see a result in your business. It's almost impossible not to.
Yes. Love it. Absolutely. Well, good. Well, this was great. And we have an extra couple minutes. So take those couple minutes and go record a video. Like Cari just said, take this and go right to social media. Or if you're camera shy, which we'll talk about, look me up because you gotta get over it. Go to Nikki. Go to Nikki's because you can stitch, you can duet, you can take hers and rip hers off. She's given us unlimited permission to do that, but get into action, do something.
Yes, you guys go do it. We'll see you back here. Don't forget, we have our Wednesday call. We have our Thursday call. Angie has open office hours. You can find all of these past recordings on our YouTube. There's no excuse not to engage and find more information. And of course, if we can help you, just reach out to one of us on work chat or email or find us on socials, and we're happy to help. Have a great week. Thanks, Angie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.